Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah, from what I've learned, is Abraham sacrificed his son Isaac. It's a story about a man, which represents the father, the son, which represents the son, obviously, and a lamb and a ram. So the ram, so God will provide himself on that mountain. But he's taken his son, Isaac, up, sacrificing him. Sacrificing him, and by the time he gets there, you remember Jonah, and it was like a 3-day journey to get to Nineveh, and a day as a year, and years are known as 1,000. A year can be known as 1,000 years. So it took some time to get to the mountain, is what I'm configuring between Abraham and Isaac. But Abraham really, because he believed God, that it's that communication in the spirit to God. When you believe God, you believe in that spirit, that things will manifest. And then you see glimpses of it. See, that's the only reason why Abraham would be willing to sacrifice his son Isaac up on a mountain, is because he's seen glimpses of the Spirit of God working through his son. And he had enough faith to believe that he can go forward with it. So he went forward with it. Some people... never mind. He goes forward with the idea that something good will come out of it. But can you imagine you're told to slay your son, to like sacrifice him, take a knife to him, serve him up as food? Can you imagine that? A father serving his son up to be food for others, in case they're hungry, in case they're in like a desert and there's no running water. It's like sacrificing his son Isaac as a drink offering. Because what do? You sacrifice something. You're going to eat its flesh. You're going to drink its blood. And Christ said, "Eat my flesh and drink my blood." And there's certain groups that really love that saying, because it's proof that that's what Christ told you to do. So they'll eat a bunch of flesh and drink a lot of blood. And it's not referring to literal blood, literal flesh, because the Bible is a spiritual book, and it's written by the elite, and they know how to fulfill it perfectly. So it's a sacrifice. Taking someone up to a high mountain. It's a place where all eyes can see it because it's up high. Abraham believed in his communication with God, the Spirit in heaven. So he went along with the plan. And he did what he was told. But what was he really going to do? Because when he said that, how am I supposed to know what movies are out? There's no pictures. When I get an idea, I want to speak it out loud. And maybe I'm not ready to speak about it. I want more information, but sometimes I can help myself, and that's why I do it. Because it's important to understand that people can interpret the Bible in such a literal way. Don't mind that clicking and clanking there. It's the scooter. Abraham didn't interpret it when he was told to sacrifice his son Isaac. Here's the bottom line. He didn't interpret it as, I'm going to kill my son, literally. He just screwed it down. He knew he wasn't going to kill his son, literally. So he sacrificed him the way that he knew would be able to feed people. It's the same thing with Christ. Christ is a picture of Isaac, and because it's similar, but the difference in interpretation is there may be somebody else that says, you need to stab your son right in the back. Abraham, stab him, cut him up, feed him to the lions in their den. And they could believe that, and then they'll come up with the interpretation of Christ dying on the cross, literally. When Abraham interpreted what he was told by God, and he interpreted correctly, that's the story of Christ that did not actually physically get nailed to a cross and was tortured in a literal sense. It was all in the spirit. However, that other group that's interpreting it that way, they're ready for that real sacrifice, for their the Jesus that they picked out to be slain. Remember, there's a lamb and then there's a ram as a sacrifice. If you're expecting a literal bloodshed, it's not going to happen, because there's a group of people, which is that other side. Remember, at this point, it seems like it ties in with David becoming king, and then becoming king for the house in over there in Judah's area, but not the house of Israel, because the house of Israel may be the ones looking to fulfill the Bible literally, and they're going to be disappointed when they can't eat the flesh of Jesus. ties in together. Being on top of a mountain. When it says, when you see the flashes of lightning from east, or when you see lightning from the east and flashes to the west, it's kind of ironic that the Georgia Guidestones did, at least in the news, or YouTube news, someone said a flash of lightning, just to get you to think of that, because that is in the east side. And then over the flash over there in the west was the Hoover Dam, because that's over near California. And it all happened in the same period of time that I was I'm trying to figure out what's next. Just like what's next with New York. Today, Paul Begley comes out with a video, Apocalypse, New York, getting people prepared for the apocalypse over there with the Statue of Liberty torn down in the sea. Remember, many false prophets will arise and show great signs and wonders. Even Stephen James with his dream about something over there and the dams, that the oil was going to flood when the earth starts quaking, the oil lines start breaking or something like that. And the oil and the water will turn to oil, the seas. They may show us that on TV when we're all locked in, or they may show the group of people I'm not certain about it, so I don't want to name drop and be wrong, but I think it's the house of Israel that, because it's like God went to the Jews first, they denied him, so then he goes to the Gentiles, he goes to the other group of people, which, wouldn't that be the house of Judah? Because the house of Judah is the one that believed first. So they have the information. And then, because of that house that agrees, Isaac doesn't actually physically die. And Abraham knew that because he knew the interpretation of it. He knew his son wasn't going to die. Because he said, wait here, me and my son are going to go worship. Wait here with the donkey, and the two waited there with the donkey and said, we'll be back. We're going to go up there and worship on that mountain. You can stay down here and we'll be back. That's Mount Rushmore, Moriah. Mount Rushmore. Mount Moriah. All those mountains, it's always about being on a mountaintop. So when it says flee to the mountains, when you see the flashes from the east to the west, because you're going to see it in a literal form in the world. Those that have already seen it have been going through that tribulation period that's talked about in the Bible in spirit. And anyone that sees this taking place, flee to the prophets. Those of you who are going to flee to the mountains, if you're, see, it's like I'm searching for where everything is on earth and then how you get out of the earth. Not that I'm trying to escape. I'm not looking for this spot because I'm scared and I want to run away. I want to find where hell is, where everybody's at, where your home is. Where do you literally live? Inside of Mount Rushmore? In, down, and around in those caves? So what's going to happen when you're in those caves and it starts shaking around the time that I thought it may shake? Some type of disruption at Mount Rushmore is what I can say. A disruption to the people that are looking to flee. Because maybe Petco 2 was showing Lincoln Financial Field, and that's why Barack Obama showed up there. Because it's like, wherever he goes and represents on that exact day, Harold Camping's World, October 21st, 2020, when I was down there at 17 JFK, and he was preaching up there, and that Wooder stopped at the same exact time that he was reading Psalms 46, 10 years after the first 9/11. Be still, know that I am God. So that Wooder stood still at that same exact time that he read that on September 11, 2011. Fast forward 11 years, and you get 21 total years with something being the second time around. When you fooled me once, but you can't fool me again, I believe this sacrifice in this system right now, the Isaac that's in play from the very beginning, the group of people that are playing this out, and then in spirit it takes place too. And it may not be the same exact person that's playing that's named that. There's a spiritual manifestation from someone different, and then there's a literal from the script world. So a sacrifice up on a mountain like Mount Rushmore, because that would be the home where everybody lives. And technically, I guess you can say my enemies, because you've been hired to be my enemy. You were taught, whether you were taught from birth, whether it's the Amalekites, the ones who are, hired to terrorize. You may have been my enemy because you have the anger in your heart, and it's easy for you to be, or you were just hired, and you're hired to slander my name and say stuff, but you're really not my enemy, because you know that the real enemy is inside your head, just like the pet goat too, where I believe that serpent inside of that person that had the cracked egg head, it's kind of delusional at times before. I believe that thing inside of his head was tormenting him, because I can relate to that, because it's been doing that to me since I started since I was alive, but mainly since I started YouTube. It's enhanced more because I've been attacked. I've been attacked like I've never been attacked before in my entire life. Even with my kid's mom attacking me with just pure evil, whatever. Or even my wife attacking me with insecurities about cheating on her for the first 7, 8, 9 years of our marriage, or since we've known each other. Not really sure how I handled it, or stayed faithful and not left. I'm not really sure how I did that. Besides, I believe in God. I believe in commitment. I believe in sticking it out. But there's also a point in time where if someone doesn't repent from what they're doing, you got to split separate ways. So I've learned that the Gang Stalk Corporation is all throughout the entire world, and they can easily get one of your family members to turn against you. I don't know what it is that they offer, but I'm sure it's delicious. Or maybe it's just something from your birth that's just part of who you are, and you don't even think there's anything wrong with it. You know you need to keep secrets. You know you'll never tell the truth when you're asked about, are you from the inside? Are you an agent? Or if you say, I know you're in surveillance, like I did to my kid, and it started to flip out, and then he got punished for 5 days straight, and I didn't punish him. I don't even know where that came from. But kind of showed that maybe I was on the right track, and so what? So what if everybody is? I actually said to my wife, I said, you know what? I hope you are a gang stalker. And in the end, the truth is told to you. Like you understand it, you recognize it, you see it. But you need to see something drastic change, and it has to have my name attached to it. Something drastic changing in this entire world, and my name is attached to it, where I can get someone's attention. And only if I was leading people to God would the gods of the earth even make it happen, or even allow it to happen. And I believe the cross is right there. The cross would be from the spirit realm to reality, where, like everything I've ever said, and I'm learning all in spirit, saying how these things are going to be literal in the future, and how my retirement fund came from just speaking words into existence and getting people to agree. Because that's a fantasy land. That's what my son said. He told me. He said, you live in a fantasy land, because he doesn't believe what I'm saying is purely relevant. And that's okay, because how can you? It's hard for me to believe it sometimes. I gotta just remind myself, wait a minute, who else is doing this? And are they successful at it? So a crossroad for me would be that exact thing. A great earthquake happens, and the sky is rent in two, or the veil is torn in two, or even when the Roman soldier pierced Christ at that moment, and whenever that earthquake took place, at whatever time, it's like a reality checkpoint where they realize, oh, so he was just speaking for God. Oh, okay, well, that confirms it now, because it's a prediction that came true, and that would be at the cross. You think someone needs to get literally nailed to a cross, and then once you're done, eat my flesh and drink my blood. Some people literally think that. But it's a good thing Abraham didn't think that, because it could have been that way. So the mountain that I believe is the most important mountain would be Mount Rushmore. Because I believe that is the portal to at least go to hell. Because you can go in those caves and the rocks and the dens and say, hide us from the face of the Lamb when the earth quakes. Is it going to be a little earthquake with everybody in there? Oh, remember this. Winter means inactivity and decay. And Sabbath is between, some people say it's Saturday, some people say it's Sunday. It's a good thing September 11th, 2022 is on a Sunday, because, whoo boy, you don't want to be flying, you don't want to be taking flight on Saturday. So what if the people, they know the second 9/11 is the target? They were told, Philly's going to be nuked. It starts with the link. Philly's next. And wherever and whoever, and the world's just going to get nuked. And get in your bunker now. Accept the mark of the beast and get in. Get in the tunnel. And then what happens is they flee on the Sabbath. And that is their flight, that God said, pray that your flight isn't when there's inactivity and decay, meaning everything in the world, the system, everything's collapsing. It's decaying. It's like winter. It's dying out. It's fading, crumbling, lack of oxygen. It dies. And on a Sabbath. So that is a Saturday. So pray that your flight isn't a day before The second 9/11. On 9/11/2022. Because your flight is going to be because of the fear of the noise that you fled from. Because you fled to the literal mountains. 25 minutes. You fled to the literal mountains, and God told you to flee to the prophets. You thought there was going to be a literal feast. It was a spiritual one. You thought Christ was going to die on the cross and be nailed to it. But he already was. You see him in the risen state. You think you're going to kill him. He doesn't die twice. Where's his body? I don't know. Where did his body go? Did his body see corruption? The Bible said it didn't. So if his body didn't see corruption, doesn't that tell you that he didn't get pierced in the hands either? I'm just saying, like, doesn't it show you that his body didn't see corruption? But the movies show that his body was corrupted. They corrupted him. I'm just driving in circles, making people move around. It's funny. I'm waiting for my truck to get inspected. I think it may pass. The tires are low. I was thinking about buying a new pair. But if I buy a new pair, I might want to change the rims along with it. Because tires are... You know, if you're going to get a set of tires, you might as well get a set that you like. If you can afford it. So Isaac was sacrificed by Abraham, like I was saying in the beginning. As the child state, there was a lamb that was going to be sacrificed. So it's like there's a lamb and a ram up on the mountain. But there was no lamb because Isaac is the lamb in child form. And then the ram will be provided. So when you take a look on Google Maps, and Abraham said, look, behind him is a ram. When I get home, I'm going to look at Google Maps and see if I can find the ram behind Abraham on Mount Rushmore. Somewhere in that area, it's behind him. Just like Theodore, the door is behind him, his head. So the ram is like the father type spirit in the child. So it's like the son and the father inside of the child as the two. That's what Christ was. Christ said, if you see me, you've seen the Father. So he's the son. You're looking at him, but he also represents the Father because that spirit is inside him. So he resembles the lamb that was slain, and then the ram that will be provided, or the sacrifice that will be provided, he will provide himself. Who do you think he is? If he's providing a ram instead, then it only makes sense to me, and I don't know, I could be wrong, but it's just an observation that Isaac, because he represents Christ, and it's the same story, just told in a different version, same result. He didn't die physically, and Abraham knew it, so he believed in Isaac, and that's why he sacrificed him, put him up for a few years. It's his 3-year journey to get to Nineveh, 3 years journey, and it took some time to set it up, but then in the end you'll see that on MountRushMoriah, you'll see the sacrifice, which is just a simple fact that you've seen the mountain being pointed out, and that's where you guys live, in Mount Rushmore. Oh man, if I had a home run scene right now, I'd hit it. Boy, oh boy. which goes back to enemies. I want to meet people, everybody that I've ever come across on the YouTube platform, good or bad. I'm not trying to run anywhere. I don't need a cave to hide in because I'm not scared. This is a revealing of secret places and things. And all I'm ever trying to do is get people to, number one, stop lying. Number two, quit the app. Stop being a gang stalker. Get another job. You know you're doing something wrong. You know it. You feel it in your heart. For those of you that have hearts. Robots are trained to do what they do. I may have come across a bunch of them, I don't know. So when I visit Mount Rushmore, I think I'll visit in the spirit first before I literally go there. And then when I literally get there, my objective is to free people that are down there. Like the leader, the one that rules it. And then go up. Like having an ascension in spirit with the people that have experienced this thing with me, that I've experienced too, and you finally get to see the results of it. That's the spirit I'm looking for to change things. Something like that has to happen in order for that to take place. But it needed to already be in plan to happen, where Mount Rushmore is where it gets split in two. But it could also be withheld, and it's just the earthquake itself that happened underground, behind the scenes underground, and it doesn't literally need to happen. Or it happens right at the mountain that you flee to, and then you're going to say, hide us from the Lamb, the wrath of the Lamb. Hide us in these caves and these rocks and dens.